For the past year and a half, I've been developing GetPsyched and developing an online blogging platform in psychology and mental health. Through our YouTube channel here, our written blog via our website and our social media platforms, I've been ensuring to try and create consistent and valuable content in the field that I'm most passionate about. But what exactly does it take to blog in psychology, and is blogging the best platform to get across the message of mental health and psychology? What's up guys, welcome to another week's episode of GetPsyched. If you've been enjoying our videos, then make sure to hit that like button, and you can also hit that subscribe button. If you hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, then you'll get weekly reminders of every time I upload on GetPsyched every Monday. Now, like I said, this week we're going to be taking a look at blogging in psychology. So, I think we should start off by understanding a little bit about why blogging in psychology might seem challenging and even might seem a little bit controversial at times. There's a few points that we need to consider first. The content that you absorb via a blog of any platform might not necessarily be empirically backed, although that's not always the case, of course. And on GetPsyched and other mediums like PsychReg, I know that blogging and the blogs that put out are really strongly empirically backed with valuable research and references in the psychological field. But it also goes without saying that there are some psychology blogs there that aren't empirically backed. We have to then raise the question, how do we know what we're absorbing is actually factual-based psychological information? Another thing to consider is that via blog, anybody really can say anything. People that aren't qualified can give an opinion, people that aren't educated can give an opinion. So there's definitely something to be said about a tentative nature that we need to approach blogging in psychology with. Like I said, how do we know that what we're absorbing is empirically backed and factual-backed information in psychology and mental health? Now, this all being said, I know that people who really invest in blogging in psychology and mental health and who have a real passion for it do invest in empirically backed findings in their blogging. It's by no means to say that because there's a blog in psychology, it means that that person hasn't invested in psychological research. So, with that being said, what exactly are people's fears or concerns about blogging in psychology themselves? Now, I raised this question for a particular reason. I was speaking at a conference with the British Psychological Society last year, and it was an opportunity for people to come and ask Q&As and questions to the speakers. Now, my talk was about GetPsyched. It was about my experiences of blogging in psychology. And more often than not, people that approached me asking questions about blogging, it was to do with the fear that they actually had in stepping out and blogging in the field themselves. And there are a few points that I understand that lead to some people's concerns about blogging in psychology. One of them is if you're training or even if you're qualified, you could get pulled up for saying something wrong. There could be a fear of expressing your own opinion. And that's definitely something I took away from that Q&A session at that conference. People were afraid to express their opinion in the psychological field. And I think in large, this perhaps speaks to the way that psychology is actually taught at universities and high schools. When I worked as a psychology undergraduate seminar tutor, I noticed a lot that students were very concerned to give their own opinion in psychology. And I feel that this had so much to do with the fact that there were so many psychological academics from hundreds of years ago that put in so much work into empirical literature, and I think sometimes students got the mentality that how dare they question those principles. Now, I did everything that I could as a tutor to try and get students away from this mentality, but it's definitely true that the way in which we teach psychology or the way in which students appreciate psychology has got something to do with the fear of expressing their own opinion. Psychology was built on, of course, empirical literature, as we've said before, and that's vital, but it's also been built on the strong opinions of others. We need students coming through the ranks in psychology who aren't afraid to construct their own opinions, empirically backed, and communicate them. And that's where I feel that the blogging platform in psychology and mental health can be really beneficial. It can give people that avenue, it can give people that platform to actually feel confident in expressing their own opinion. Another reason why I think it can be difficult for people to blog in psychology is that at times psychological principles and concepts can be abstract. And as a result, not giving a backed opinion can sometimes feel a bit wrong. So we've looked at a little bit about the controversial nature, or the challenges at least, that face people when blogging in psychology. But does that mean that we shouldn't blog in the psychological and mental health field? Well, I can already guess that you believe that my answer to that is no, of course not. But why is that? I've always been an advocate for psychology and mental health reaching people in the platforms where they reside. For years, psychology has been so good at expecting people to come to them, and I really feel that The platforms such as YouTube, online platforms, social media platforms, we need to do better to communicate psychological principles in the areas where people are, such as YouTube, online, and social media. And this kind of leads me on to why I think blogging in psychology and mental health is so important. Part of the reason why I'm so passionate about blogging in any way in psychology has got to do with the fact that I actually think it confronts some of the main issues in psychology today. There's a focus on empirical literature solely for the absorption of professionals and practitioners. Don't get me wrong, we need that empirical literature to inform our practitioners to then inform their treatment and hopefully improve the treatment for clients. But do the people that really need that empirical literature absorb it on a regular basis? Do they go online and access journals and read articles about the latest research on anxiety and depression, for example? No, they don't. And one of the things I would say on the side of this, and I'm not concerned about voicing this, is that I worked as a research assistant for a number of years. And at times I was a little bit concerned about the principles and mechanisms behind actually getting work published. There was the skewing and manipulation at times of data and results, now and again, that I felt favoured the people that were actually doing the research. That's not to say that there was a sinister nature behind this research or people were manipulating the data to say something that it wasn't, but there is something to be said about how researchers have investment in the topic that they're looking at. Sometimes they want certain results. And this is where I feel that blogging comes in. I feel that psychologists and mental health practitioners and people invested and interested in the topic need to be on online platforms. They need to absorb that content, they need to absorb that empirical literature and communicate it to the masses where they reside. Other reasons as to why I feel that blogging in psychology and mental health is so important is because it gives people an opportunity to express and communicate their lived experiences. It also gives an opportunity for psychologists and mental health practitioners to perhaps communicate information in more digestible forms. One of the other issues that I have with psychology, and on GetPsyched in the coming weeks, I'm actually going to do a video about the main issues in psychology today, in my opinion, is that we fill psychological content with too much jargon. At times, psychological principles and literature and research can be really hard to absorb, and I think blogging can come in and try and communicate that in an easier way for people. So, based on my own experience of GetPsyched and my own passion for blogging and passion for psychology and mental health, what makes a good blog in psychology, or what is effective for bloggers to consider if they're thinking about blogging in psychology and mental health? Well, the first thing I would say here is to give self-exploration. Show elements of yourself in your blog. This is where blogging in psychology can really stand out from that empirical literature basis. Your self-exploration, your self-understanding, and your appreciation of your passion for psychology and mental health can be your niche. You have subjective understandings of mental health and psychology. Use that to develop your niche and use that to communicate that into your blog. My next point is to be honest. Use that platform to speak honestly and passionately about the topic that you care about so much, not what others care about. For example, when I first was developing GetPsyched, I did a lot of research about blogs in psychology. I did a lot of research about YouTube videos and YouTube channels in psychology. And one of the things that I noticed was that more often than not, psychology videos and psychology YouTube channels were really focused on either mind manipulation or earning money or being super successful. But there were also a lot about dating and actually picking up women. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why people click on those videos. I wanted to get away from that though. I didn't want GetPsyched to be focused on the psychology of persuasion or the psychology of dating or getting women to think what you want them to think. I wanted GetPsyched to be more valuable. I wanted it to be based in real psychological principles and facts that I could communicate to masses. My next point is to provide something of value and that is robust. When people want to know about something in psychology, or when they feel that maybe they have a mental health issue or they have challenges with their mental health, what are they more likely to do? If we think about it truthfully, are they more likely to immediately go to their GP or their doctor or the hospital, or are they going to do some research about it first online? The likelihood is that they're going to do that research online first, and so you want to be there, you want to be providing that information that people are going to gain value from. This is what this is all about. It's about providing value to people, and people are going to research certain topics, and if your blog can be there as one of the options for them to listen to or read that provides real value in that concept that they're looking into, then that's only a good thing. My next point is to make your content relatable to a complex world. Like I said earlier, make sure that your blog isn't too jargon heavy. And that is easy to do in psychology. Make sure that your blog is relatable and easy to digest for people. My next point is to consider backing up some of the concepts that you talk about with some research. I do that on GetPsyched if I'm writing a blog post, or even if I'm talking about a certain topic on my YouTube channel here. If I don't necessarily reference things, it's not because I've not considered them. I do a lot of research for each video and each blog topic, and that is based in empirical literature, and I try and communicate that as best I can. Another thing to consider about blogging in psychology, and it's something that was struck for me when last year GetPsyched and PsychReg actually did a joint conference in mental health blogging down in London. And one of our speakers spoke a little bit about how blogging can actually be part of the treatment. He experienced some real mental health complications and stated that blogging for him was such a powerful part of his treatment process. It helped him to express who he was, to express what he had been challenged with, and also to express his treatment plans. So fundamentally, blogging can be so powerful. It can be part of our treatment. It can be part of the developing understanding of certain psychological principles and mental health concepts. And it can be a place for people to come and learn more about challenging concepts and principles in psychology. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of GetPsyched. Like I said, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the comments, make sure to hit that like button. If you've got opinions about some of the things I've said today, then let me know and I'll definitely get back to you. Make sure to also hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button. You'll get weekly reminders every time I upload, and hopefully catch you next week.